My name is Benji Clifford, and I'm from Big Finish Productions, and this is the legend of the Traveling TARDIS.
My name is Christian Basil. Years ago, I had an idea. I got myself a TARDIS. Took it to new places, met a lot of new people, took some great pictures, and talked Doctor Who. From Krypton Radio and the creators of the Hanging With web show, this is the legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Join me on my latest adventures and become part of the legend.
Gotta turn your sound on, man.
Muted your sound. Unmute you.
You hear what the sound is
out of the
like,
gate. So professional.
Really? Okay. Well, for those of you who enjoyed our technical issue because I'm just dumb that way, welcome again, fellow Whovians, to the legend of the Traveling TARDIS. My name is Christian Basil. I hope for those of you listening to the podcast, you enjoyed those 5 seconds of silence I just created just for no apparent reason. Well, welcome to the show. We have a very special guest today, but let me go ahead and introduce you to our panelists today as well. And we just want to give you a bit of information that's going on around the Whoniverse and beyond. First of all, my wonderful co-host Melanie Dean. How are you doing there, Melanie?
Doing really well. Apparently Luna's here to join us as well. So
I saw that.
in.
You did. There she is.
Like, oh, cat!
Before when we started to run the intro, I was laughing completely off because all of a sudden I looked at your screen and I saw this tail just go across the screen. I was like, oh wow, well we're professional nowadays, aren't we?
Yeah, welcome to COVID 2020, where just anything goes. Everybody now knows how many animals are in their house, how many kids are in their house, significant others, and whatnot. Just roll with it.
Exactly. Now, Melanie and I were in Dade City for a remembrance of a friend. For those of you just joining us on the live feed, it was just yesterday, I believe. Yeah, it was yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday.
Yep.
At the dates.
Today's Tuesday.
Oh, good grief. See? Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. I can't keep track. Sorry, Benji. This is how I run there. But we did say our goodbyes to our fellow friend and fellow Whovian, J.R. Hibbert. And believe it or not, Benji, if you look in the center, the TARDIS right next to J.R., that's where he is today.
No way.
He wanted
really?
that. He asked for the TARDIS. So he got his picture with the Traveling TARDIS one last time. And a lot of us were asked to cosplay in his honor. Now I'm not going to show those pictures. You go to the Traveling TARDIS if you want to see those pictures.
Like he cosplayed, but no, JR was in the Southeast. If you went to any convention during along the I-4 corridor, MegaCon, SuperCon, Pensacon, any of those cons, JR was there. He was the one that everybody kind of felt like they were the preeminent Fourth Doctor, and unfortunately he's no longer with us, but his cosplay lives on at the Fourth Doctor cosplay on Instagram.
And he was spot on too. I mean, you see him, Benji, in the suit that he's wearing. He also has the original Fourth Doctor outfit, and he used to go from between both. So he would go on Friday that morning, he would wear the Fourth Doctor original outfit in the classic, and then he would wear the red version, the latter half. And he was just spot on. And the one thing that everybody, it's not there. But one thing the jelly babies.
Jelly babies. He would always have a bag of jelly babies
people around him.
Exactly. You could not walk up and down the convention without him. We were going. He invited me to lunch one day. He came to my booth, and he asked me, "You want to go to lunch?" And I go, "Sure." So I get up and we start moving. 15 minutes later, as we are traveling, Well, he's still getting pictures. Everybody's stopping to get pictures of JR. And I was like, JR, I'm starving. I'm going to get some food. If you show up, I'm fine with that. If you don't, please don't take offense to it. Speaking of the corridor, I told you of I-4 or I-75. Mr. Mark Muncie, how you doing? Mr. Erie, Florida himself. You look fabulous, sir. I love
thank you. I figure it's a holiday special. You got to dress a little for it, right? So, I was at, I sadly couldn't make that because we were booked at Spooky Empire's holiday pop-up event this last weekend. So we were there with Joe Bob Briggs and a few other guests, Riku Browning, the original Creature from the Black Lagoon, and all that. So we had kind of a little horror at Christmas, so full of Krampuses and and all other fun festivities. So that's where I was last weekend, and sent my condolences virtually to JR, and I miss him terribly. It's such a sad loss.
You know, it's funny, Mark. You mentioned Spooky Empire. I actually went for 5 minutes.
Really?
I went in. Yeah, I went to the door. I didn't go in. I didn't go in. I just wanted to see what was going on, and it was, they had just opened up on Sunday right before we went to the memorial. So I said, I'll just make a pit stop. I'll just check out how Spooky Empire is doing. And I don't know if you know Kikudo Cosplay Victoria. She had posted on our Facebook. She said she was crying because here we're back at a convention. Here was Spooky Empire. Yeah. Benji, we haven't had, I think, a full-on convention since what, February, March?
February. I think Sci-Fi Barto was the last thing I recall. So
yeah. And
it's
just for
us, no large events, it's such a shame. I think everybody is just looking forward to the next big thing, really, to get back out there and see all their friends.
Exactly. And
they limited tickets. They did very good spacing. They had, normally, Artist Alley or booths are right next to each other, 6 feet between each booth. They had, just tons of spacing. Everybody's wearing masks. They wouldn't let anybody in if they didn't. It was about as good as it could possibly be done. And fingers crossed, that they can keep, if they keep things like that. Yeah, I'd be proud to do more cons because that was amazing.
Speaking of doing more cons, because the segues are coming from me, Dave from the rathole.ca. Welcome back, Dave. How you doing?
I was better before that attempt at hi, Kristen.
I've seen you run my show, so hang on.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I'm not a whole lot better. It's true.
How you doing there, sir?
Things are locked down tighter than you'd believe in Alberta right now. But as far as everything can go, it's going great. World Junior Hockey Championships are going on here in a few days or in a few weeks. In Edmonton, they've got a giant bubble. They're using the same bubble that the NHL had.
Oh, okay.
All of the NHL at the Rogers Place in Edmonton. They've got the giant new arena and all the hotels that are basically adjacent, literally fenced off. So all the players have like their own floors by team. They go out through literally a cage. They shut down the street. They go across the street. It's like an airlock.
Oh my Lord.
And in. There's no contact with outside people for transmission of anything. It says they are locked down insane, even tighter than the rest of the province. So it's an interesting time.
Yeah. I got a call.
They're still playing, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
They figured
it was
out
actually supposed to be here in Red Deer. The event was supposed to be here, but we don't have that kind of a possible setup, so they moved it to Edmonton, which is not that far away. But
I actually got a phone call from my friend Gary Beekler, who does the Neurotic Show over on the YouTube channel, and he's in California. And he actually asked me, he goes, "Christian, how's the lockdown?" I go, "What lockdown?" I was like, "Yeah, we're kind of open there."
We were until not long ago.
Yeah. Well, we'll see there. Speaking of the spike going up, hi, Dr. Freedom. Okay. Welcome to the show, Brian. How you doing? It's been a while, dude.
I know. Sadly, it's been too long. Yeah, all I can say is this. I hope COVID dies when 2020 goes out. This year has just been the year to live in infamy. It seems like everything that could go wrong did go wrong, and it's just, I already told my wife I'm going to be dancing in my front yard wearing nothing but a diaper as the baby New Year. When 2020
please do not put that on your
just
YouTube
out of sheer
channel.
joy.
Please do not. You know what? Man. Go ahead. Put it on your YouTube channel. Put it on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
I'll
I'll live
big old
stream.
rattle.
And Brian, mad props. That shirt is awesome. I love that. That's very good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, but knowing my luck, people will call in a Bigfoot sighting the way I look, you know.
Merry Squatchmas.
And ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome our special guest today, Benji Clifford. If you're not familiar with Benji's work, you've heard it a lot. He is sound design. Gosh, you are like multi-talented. You do the music. You are a sound designer. I think you've done some voiceover work with the show, right? You know what? I'm going to quit here. Tell the people a little bit about yourself, there, Benji, and welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. And I do so many different things at Big Finish. Started off just doing sound, and gradually it's just turned into music. And to be honest, because we only have a limited amount of actors who do things in the studio, so if we need background characters, to be honest, half it's just me talking to myself throughout episodes in the background. So you hear me as a lot of different guards and people doing all sorts of things. But yeah, and as well as that, I also co-host the Big Finish podcast with Nick Briggs as well. So busy boy at Big Finish, but I love it, and I'm so proud to be a part of the Big Finish team.
We'll just start off with the question: how did you get the gig with Big Finish? How did your career start off with that?
Well, this is a really interesting story. So Big Finish is I'm a Doctor Who fan, always have been. Listened to Big Finish first and foremost growing up, because I'm 30 next year, which is going to be interesting.
You're 30 next year?
Yeah.
Half of us don't like you already.
Well, so Big Finish has been around for like such a long time for me. So I've sort of grown up with it, especially because Doctor Who wasn't on the TV when I was growing up. So it's almost was one of the reasons I kind of wanted to get into making noise in the first place. And so I used to do it for fun with my friends. We'd gather around microphones, and I'd be the Doctor. And thankfully, I don't think any of them survive. Or I think one does, but that's never seen the light of day. But it was dreadful. But we learned to do all this sort of thing. And it was great fun. And then I just sort of got on with life and just sort of thought, okay, you do other things. I got into music. And it was only really when I had a gathering with some of my friends, Doctor Who friends, and we thought we'd record our own audio drama. So we said, let's do, it was called Freedom of the Daleks. And it featured a chap called Christopher Thompson, Walker Thompson as his professional name now. He does Patrick Troughton impressions.
I think I know who that is.
And he's really, really good. And we did that, and I did the Daleks and did different things. It was all recorded in my bedroom at the time, and it's very, just messing around and having fun and doing that. At the time, I was working in a hospital with Mother and Baby Hospital, looking after babies, which is a lovely job. I loved it to bits. But a friend of mine, he said, you should, send it off, see if Big Finish like it. See if they enjoy it, why not? And I sort of thought, well, maybe I could, I don't know. Is this something I should be doing? I don't know. But I did it anyway. And the weirdest thing happened in that I actually so the same day that I got news that I got the gig at Big Finish was the same day that I think it must have been about maybe 15, 20 minutes before I got the message through from Big Finish. I got called to a meeting at this hospital, which is a private hospital, and they said that the hospital was closing down, and that they were shutting their doors, and that was it, and we've all we haven't got a job. And so I had this really surreal situation where I've got people around me really upset because they've lost, and I'm sitting here I've got my dream job working for Doctor Who doing so it was the most strange experience to do that. And that was years and years ago. I'm not saying that life works in mysterious and strange ways, but very strange strange experience for me. But yeah, I'm still there now, still doing it to this day. I spent the day in the TARDIS. It's been lovely, listening to the TARDIS anyway. And yeah, just love it. It's a great job, and it's just so much fun.
Well, awesome there. The Big Finish podcast, how did that come to be? When did you and Nick decide you were going to do a podcast together?
Well, the Big Finish podcast existed long before I was involved. We had Paul Spragg, who's sadly no longer with us, and he used to do that with Nick. Paul's a fantastic, lovely man, and really missed by all of us at Big Finish and the community. And there was a time where Nick, he wasn't sure if he was going to really do the podcast anymore. He wanted to, but he sort of didn't have the passion to do it, and so he started just trying out different people that he knew at Big Finish and doing sort of one-off things. And I met Nick a few times. We met a few dudes, but we weren't that close friends. But we certainly knew that we got on, and we always had a laugh together. So I went in and did a podcast, and he said, "Oh, do you fancy doing another?" And another turned to another, and another to another. And here we are years later, and I do the podcast with him every week. And I've also got another podcast with him, which is the Benji and Nick Show. So we've got two podcasts on at the same time.
That's how I conned all these people. Do you guys want to do another and another and another and another? And this is where we are.
Yeah.
There's nothing quite like podcasting. And I think in a year like we've got at the moment with COVID and everything, it's so nice not just to be able to make podcasts and talk to people, but also to listen and chat to people, to listen to other people's podcasts and just enjoy a bit of the world, really.
Mm-hmm.
This is awesome there. And for those of you just joining us and may not be familiar with Big Finish, let me just give you a brief synopsis. BigFinish.com. You can check out all the audio adventures. So going back to classic doctors, Tom Baker, Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, Paul McGann, also David Tennant. And now we're going to talk about this after the break. But this guy right here has just signed up to become part of Big Finish. So we are very excited there. But before we begin talking about Christopher Eccleston and his arrival to Big Finish, we got a commercial break. When we return, please continue to stay logged on, tuned in, and continue to become part of the legend.
Bateman.
What's the Bateman?
A novel set in Florida. Written by Florida author D.L. Havlin. Suspense, mystery, and murder.
Evidence is in the bait.
The Bateman is available at local bookstores and online.
Jackie Sonnenberg's My Soul to Keep is a ghost story rooted in the realities of actual cults. When 13-year-old Sky Monroe arrives at her new boarding school, all she can think about is death and connecting with the afterlife. Soon she discovers her school's spirituality group, the Guardians of Light, and they have a secret. They can speak with the dead, and the organization is a cult. But this isn't Sky's only problem. The campus house where Sky resides is haunted, and even the ghosts have an agenda. They intend on getting the souls they want. Filled with mystery and intrigue plucked straight from the headlines, author Jackie Sonnenberg's research and attention to detail give this ghost story an even more eerie atmosphere. Find My Soul to Keep on Amazon.com today. Deborah Parmley's Jenna's Christmas Wish.
Santa, if there's one thing I want for Christmas more than anything, it's someone to spend Christmas with. Someone who really wants me to be there.
Head to the mountains of East Tennessee with romance author Jenna Hart for a Christmas writer's workshop. Since her mother passed after a long illness, Jenna has had one wish. She doesn't want to spend Christmas alone. Meeting Niccolo Maldini, cover model and actor, could make more than Jenna's Christmas wish come true. Unless Ember, Niccolo's ex-girlfriend, does something crazy to stop them from being together. It's a mountain Christmas romance you won't want to miss in Deborah Parmley's Jenna's Christmas Wish. Now on Amazon.com.
If you're watching us live on the Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook page, hey, don't thank us. Thank our friends at Geek Insider at geekinsider.com. Don't forget to subscribe and tell them the Legend of the Traveling Tardis sent you.
At Geek Insider, we foster relationships with those in the geek sphere so we can give our audience the insider view of entertainment, tech, and more.
And for those of you just joining us, welcome back to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. My name is Christian Basil. I'm here with Melanie, Mark, Dr. Freedom himself, Brian Buress, Dave at therathole.ca, and the lovely and talented and multi-talented, I should say, Benji Clifford from Big Finish Productions, who does sound design, music, voiceover. I think you're it. I think you're like the heart of Big Finish there. Dave, you had a question for Benji. Is that correct there?
Yeah, I was going to say, so podcasting, you mentioned the podcast has been around longer than you, but podcasting itself hasn't really been around. Like, not even 15 years. How is kind of the the technical side of podcasting and just the phenomenon of podcasting, how has that kind of impacted Big Finish and how you guys do things? Because it's definitely changed the rest of the world.
The thing about podcasting, and it's something that I know that really early on, I think Nick was the one who wanted to make a Big Finish podcast and put it out there. The thing that's so good about a podcast is it's a way of like directly communicating with people and being able to, rather than just, the internet's great, rather than sharing bodies of text or things like that, or a picture and something, you can talk and you can actually, we try to make it like a relaxed conversation where it's me and Nick are chatting. We're talking about the latest releases. We might share some funny things in there, and because we love it too. We love what we do, and we just kind of hope really, that the magic from that shines off on other people. So really, podcasts now, they're almost, taking over from TV, because I think people are so busy. Everybody's doing things and moving around. I mean, not so much this year because everybody's at home, but people are normally busy doing all sorts of things. So having podcasts, you can kind of, you can lock into your audio and listen, a bit like what we offer at Big Finish, without kind of having to focus on something. So you can be walking, going in a subway and listening to a radio show, whereas if you wanted to listen to the radio on the subway, you actually couldn't. That's a technical side of it, but you understand, you get the point. It's just a lovely way to broadcast and talk to people, I think, really, and get something out there for the masses.
Well, I just with the radio dramatization, on the trip out, well, actually the trip back home, I was actually listening to Project Lazarus, who has Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy, and I had to stop for gas because I had to refill up to get on the way home. The thing is, I created my own commercial break because I didn't want to stop. There were things happening to the Sixth Doctor, and I was like, I can't stop now. I'm going to take my chances. Now, Dade City, if you've never been to Dade City, there's quite a distance between point A and point B, and everything else is just trees and grass, and that's it for miles and miles and miles. So you're taking your chances. If you're going to pass this one gas station to go to the next one, you may not see one for a while, so you might be listening in the cubes for a while. But it's like, I got to listen to what happens to the Sixth Doctor at this point there. So the drama audiolizations, Big Finish. If you haven't checked it out for yourself, I don't even know how you've been watching us or not. You got to go to bigfinish.com. I mean, all that information, all those audios, and I mean, it's not just Doctor Who. What other shows can Benji? What's that?
Human Frontier.
Oh, Human Frontier. Benji, what is your favorite show outside of Doctor Who in the Big Finish?
Oh, in the Big Finish. Okay, well,
yeah.
I'm going to have to say, because it was one of my favorite shows before I actually worked on it. But I love Survivors, and I will always, anybody that listens to the Big Finish podcast will know that I always go on about it. But I love Survivors. It's a show all about it's as it is in the title. It's about surviving. It's about the world is taken over by a deadly virus, and it's about the people that are left behind to kind of rebuild society. I love it because it's like if you've watched The Walking Dead or something like that. It's like The Walking Dead but without the zombies, which is a bit weird because the real monsters in this one are human beings, and it's about kind of how society who takes charge and why, and it's just a crazy ride. But that is, for me, is one of the most one of my favorite Big Finish releases, because auditory, it's the most unsettling thing. We always say to people, you don't listen to Survivors, you experience it, because it's just the most weird sort of auditory journey you'll go on. But yeah, we do so many different shows as well as that. We do Lake 7, The Avengers, as I've said, Survivors, The Human Frontier is part of our Big Finish Originals range. We just do so, we've even done an audio book of Star Trek. So, we have done so many things, and it's growing all the time.
Sherlock.
Absolutely, yes. Nick Briggs as Sherlock Holmes. We've got
I'm
Adamant, obscure.
I'm loving some of the classic stuff that you guys have been doing, like Dracula and all that too, with Mark Gatiss and all that. Now, my question for you is: I'm an old sound guy from years past, back in the really terrible early days of syndicated television here in Orlando, and so we did a couple series with the great Sir Patrick McNee from the Avengers, where he had retired here to Florida, and we kept wheeling him in to a sound booth to do the voice of various computers for Superboy and Swamp Thing and all these really terrible TV shows that should never have gotten as many seasons as they did, including like Thunder in Paradise starring the great Hulk.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So I would wheel Patrick in and in his wheelchair, and I was a sound guy, so I got to sit in the booth with him, and he would just ramble on for hours, and then we would get a take or two. And I know Big Finish has got it down to a science. So I was just curious, how much rambling do you let some of these classic doctors go on before you get the takes? That was my question.
Well, Big Finish, a good question. Big Finish is a bit of a well-oiled machine now. We've been doing it for such a long time that studio days, we record an hour's worth of audio drama in one studio session, which doesn't sound like a lot in terms of time, but in terms of orchestrating that with all of the cast, it's quite a long time. We do things in a little bit of a not a retro way, but a traditional way. So we've got a green room where all of the cast can sit and chat and talk with one another. So what's really good in the way that it works is all the rambling happens outside of the studio. Everybody's chatting and all the anecdotes are going round, and it's just that it all happens there. And then people are so good because we'll say we need so and so in here now, and they'll say okay, no problem. They'll come in, and because they're professionals and they're fantastic, they'll go in and they'll just be able to nail all of the takes, and it's just so it's actually it's a very tight procedure the way we do it. I did work with Tom Baker the other day remotely, and that's a completely different scenario where I was recording him, and Tom is a force. He's the most Tom's one of those you experience Tom Baker, and so we're sitting there, and he will tell us the stories, and then he'll say, right, I suppose we better get on with it now then. It'll be great. and he nails it, and he's fantastic, and love him to bits.
Now, how has it changed now? Because I know that before, like we were saying, is that you would have it in the old style way where you have your director in the room, you have the entire cast going on, so it's a whole radio drama. Then COVID hit, and now we have social distancing, and everyone's in separate rooms. And to my understanding, do they have separate? I think the grid of my question is, what about the equipment? And are you furnishing equipment to them so that they're all getting the same quality of sound, or are you just kind of praying that they found the one room that they can keep all the other noise out?
It really varies. A lot of the time we rely on agents. When we're casting people, we rely on agents to say whether the talent that they've got under them, they've got their own gear and equipment. We're sending equipment out all the time, so we know how it works. We know the things that we send out and how to get it working. But it really is. It's quite a vast operation because we've got a lot of different equipment, a lot of different microphones, because actors are, they've got their own jobs as well. So a lot of them have already got kit and got their own stuff. But really at the moment, Big Finish is coming to you from airing cupboards, spare bedrooms, garages, sheds. A few people, studios are open now, so you can get individual actors can go in and have a professional thing. So it's a balance of different things. But yeah, Big Finish, it's a lot of the time it's a afterwards. That's when the sound designers, and we've got a great team of people, and it's their job really to come in and clear it up and try and give the illusion that everybody is in the same space. And we pull it off. We that's the main thing. So far, fingers crossed, people have been very kind to us with it and enabled us to keep making more.
Speaking of sheds, this is the big topic of the Big Finish podcast these days. And if you just happen to be lucky to be following Nick Briggs on his own personal Facebook page, yeah, you can see Benji laughing out here. He's working on something. Should we call this the man cave? Should we call it the Big Finish production studio? What does he call it now?
It's the Nick cave, isn't it? The Briggs cave.
the Briggs cave. But he's working on building a shed. And if we've been watching on a daily basis, and I was just joking around. I was like, if I could get a hold of Nick Briggs, I would like him to come in once a week to tell us how his shed is doing every so often. just like a 30-second Nick, how's your shed doing? And it goes, it's like it's bigger on the inside or something like that. Just move on out of David Letterman-esque there.
You have now entered the Briggs zone.
The Briggs zone, yes. That sounds actually very scary. What's the thing about that? So I gotta ask, you've done a lot of the audios. You've been producer. You've been the sound designer. You've done the audios themselves as far as voiceovers. You've done the music for that, but that doesn't matter at this moment. How are the food at Big Finish? Because that is every time I hear somebody who's working at Big Finish, the food, the catering is the big deal. So tell me
about craft services.
That. Yeah, exactly. Why is the food
as
so
good
popular?
As they say.
Yes.
I can say that to the world. The food is the best. Toby, who's our studio engineer and has been for a long time. The man is a wizard. I mean, he really is, because he sits there and he sits in this lovely studio and he's completely in control of everything. He's recording the actors, and somehow you might say, "Oh, just be a moment, just pop out for a second." He's a very nice, calm chap. Pops out, and then somehow he says, "Right, lunch is ready." We go out, and it's like a banquet. You've never seen such a huge amount of food, and not only that, he somehow manages to cater to everybody's dietary needs as well. So, oh yes, so for you, by the way, I've got this lovely side dish of this, which you can have as much as you like. And they even manage pudding. He even manages pudding as well, dessert. So and so a lot of the time we'll be having our lunch, and then we'll think, oh, don't know if we just not bother going back in. Should we just stay here now? This is lovely. Keep going. So it is. The food really is.
I'm serious, guys. Everybody we've interviewed, I've heard in the background, Paul, Katie, Tim Treloar, they're all going like, yeah, well, they gave us lunch. So like they almost think that's acceptable payment for that there. Speaking of lunch, we've got another commercial break. When we return, please continue to stay logged on, tuned in, and we'll continue our discussion here with Benji Clifford from Big Finish and the Big Finish podcast. Thank you, folks. Please continue to stay safe, stay strong, and continue to become part of the legend.
Hi, I'm Claudia Christian with some exciting updates in the Sinclair Method world. First of all, we launched our new coaching page. It's yoursinclairmethod.com, so you can go there and book a session with one of our fabulous coaches. You can also reach that page by visiting c3foundation.org. It's at the top of the landing page of the website. The second piece of news is Journeys is out. Woohoo! This book has been a long time in the making, and it is available in Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your local bookstore, and there's a limited amount of signed copies at c3foundation.org. So get your copy of Journeys now and visit the coaching page for some wonderful support. If you're on the Sinclair Method, you can book a session with a variety of different coaches. Take care and be well.
Author Cindy Kepp is writing on the edge. Books include Remnant in the Stars, The Loudest Actions, Lines of Succession, Mindstorm, Condemned Courier, the Yerushalayim series, and Animal Eye. Find author Cindy Kepp at CKOEPP.com today.
Alien invaders enslave Earth.
Unleashing hunters into the ruined wastes.
One young survivor struggles to elude their monsters, clinging to hope.
When he's stolen off the planet by a sarcastic starship AI, they pit their uneasy alliance against a treacherous galaxy.
Explore a whole new verse of barbarism and betrayal.
Wonder and adventure.
In the Scion series
by Michael J. Allen.
Beginning with Book 1, Scion Conquered Earth.
Available in print, ebook, and audio on Amazon.com.
Experience Samara's adventure as she imagines the people around her change into friendly cartoon animals right before her eyes. Journey with her in this poetic tale, My Cartoon Imagination at School.
And if you want to become one of these many sponsors that help us here at the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, want to become one of many of our beautiful members of our family, you can write to myself or Sage at hangingwith. Don't forget the second G's gone. Sage at HANGIN with show.com, or myself. We can get you some wonderful we can get you some wonderful rates too, but we can get you some wonderful and terrific rates on deals that we can have for your advertising on the podcast, as well as the live feed here that you can see from our very, very wonderful family of sponsors for our show out there. And plus, if you haven't known already, if I haven't mentioned it about 1 billion times out already, where the heck is it? There we go. Today is the final offer. Yeah, so exactly. Today is the final offer of our sale for our merch. And if we're talking merch, we're talking some good stuff too. If you've ever wanted to have your own Traveling TARDIS face mask, there you go. You get a face masks. We've got them. We've got beach towels. We've got blankets, your hoodies, phone covers. We've got it all there. Shower curtain. I'm getting that. For those of you who like the skateboard, there's a Traveling TARDIS skateboard. Tank tops, and of course you get your Traveling TARDIS t-shirts. We've got lots of merch over at the threadless.com store. Brian, what's wrong?
Wait a minute. There's no Legend of the Traveling TARDIS underoos yet?
All right, I'm going to remove you from the link now. I'll take you out of the show now. Today's the final sale for our 20% of everything off, with the exception of skateboard. And if you get $99 worth of merch, you can get free shipping minus the skateboard. Just go over there to our website, our Threadless website, and check it out. Deals are still going on up until later today. But plus, if you decide you don't make it, it's fine. That site will always be up and running. Again, we can't do the show without you. We can't do this without our sponsors. The show doesn't pay for itself. We find our friends who take care of us, and we try to take care of them as best as possible. We continue our interview with Benji Clifford from Big Finish and the Big Finish podcast there. Benji.
Mark has a question.
Mark has a question? I'm
Yes.
sorry. Mark. I'm sorry.
So Benji, you've done so much, sound design on all these. Again, I'm going from the sound aspect as an old sound guy. I'm a writer now, but back in those days, that was the thing. So from the classic shows, you make them sound exactly like I'm listening to a third Doctor episode. It's got a unique sound, and then the next, I'm listening to Stranded, which has that more modern, Paul McGann era stuff. I'm so entranced with the way you guys handle the background noises and everything else. I know you've got that classic catalog, but what are some of the other things you use to make them really stand out? I mean, to make it so we get so immersed in these wonderful.
I think first and foremost, everybody that works on these audios, we just love Doctor Who. We love it, and we love vintage television. So we're all about the details of Big Finish. And so, as well as, because in terms of library material and old classic sound effects, whilst there's a great amount out there, there's a lot of it that is just not accessible. So we've spent a lot of time going through the old episodes, lifting out sound effects. I mean, I did a Time War, I think it's Time War Volume 4, and I was straight in Genesis of the Daleks, nicking all the door sound effects. I've done I think it's a unit story with Sontarans. I sampled every Sontaran button from the Sontaran experiment. I was going through everything because we love it, and anything that we can't lift out ourselves, We've got synthesizers and all kinds of strange machinery and techniques and ways of doing things. So I do things by ear. So I'm all about, oh, I love that sound effect. Or sometimes there'll be a sound effect in an old film that I'm watching, and I'll think, oh, I'm going to try and replicate that with the synthesizers and see if I can make something. So a lot of it's just the fun of it all, really, and about getting the character right. If you're doing an older story, I mean, it's changed somewhat now with the main range, because we've sort of brought more of a cinematic feel to a lot of the Seventh Doctor stuff. It feels bigger, it's more orchestral. But at the same time, we're more than happy to sit back with the music and sit there and rattle off some Kev McCulloch Seventh Doctor stuff. Go right into it. So really, for us, it's about matching the sound with the time. If you're in the 70s, you're not going to have a lovely modern computer. You're going to have big old tape reels that go do all this stuff. And so it's just, we have fun with it. That's the thing. We love it. We have fun with it and visualize what.
And you could tell that it is a love and a passion for you guys, because when I listen to the episodes, when I hear the classic episodes, I'm immersed in the sound of what I see, because I remember the music, the background music for Tom Baker and Peter Davison, even the theme music, when it plays, when you switch from one Doctor to another, you'll use Trial of Time Lord music, and then you'll use Sylvester McCoy's music, or like in the One Doctor, where the One Doctor is pretending to be Doctor, there was like a different theme for the One Doctor. It was just, I can feel in the music that you guys have been watching and paying attention to what's been going on, not only in the screen, but translating that into audio, so that it just feels like I can watch this through my mind, just listening to the audio. Everything's very intricate. Everything's very detailed. And the passion that the actors have in relation to the music and the sounds that you put together, I'm surprised not everybody's doing it. To tell you the truth, I'm surprised nobody's expanded on this like Star Trek or Star Wars or anything of that nature. But Doctor Who lives a life indefinite in Big Finish, and I just love that. I think that's just a testament to Big Finish.
I think at Big Finish as well, we're so aware of our fan base and the people that listen, because we know that when it comes to fan base in the world, I think Doctor Who is probably one of the most loyal fan bases, and also one of the fan bases that gets and knows the details. We're sitting there, and I'm guilty of it as well. I'm sitting there, and if a monster comes out and there's even the slightest detail different on their costume, I'm sitting there thinking, oh, they've done that. That's interesting. Sitting there going, oh yeah, the Time Warrior Sontaran mask was vastly better than Sontaran Experiment, but we're not going to, we just love it. Me and Nick, we sit there and we're sitting there. We did a commentary the other day on Death to the Daleks, which is our favorite thing in the world, in the whole world. And we're sitting there going, oh yeah, those props, those Dalek props, they look a bit, you can see, look on the back of that one, it's got a big, big scratch. We notice the details, and it's the same in audio. We know that people appreciate those things, and so we try to put them in there as much as possible for people, so that, and make it right for people. And you're absolutely right. I think more fandoms and more shows should get on this, because it's fantastic. There is a really good Star Wars 1980s audio drama which I think Mark Hamill actually was in, which is really surprisingly good, actually.
Has there been ever a time where you were trying to get a specific sound, whether it was like a Foley or a sound effect or what have you, and it just wasn't good enough for you because of that loving nitpickiness, and that you just kept you have other people going, it's fine, we can just go ahead and roll with it. Like, no, I can get it better. I can recreate this better.
Sometimes it's really difficult, because we've got we do have deadlines, because things have to be in press at a certain time, so it makes it to the CDs and to the listeners. So sometimes there are moments where if we're really up against it, we think, I think there's always a case of you can spend so much time on something, especially when you love it, and to get it right. Sometimes, often we know what we want and we can get it. Sometimes, of course, you get to a point you think, I just can't quite get it. But at the same time, you have to learn to let go at the same time and be like, right, to anybody else's ears, this is going to sound fine, It's only because I've been hearing this sound in my head all day, and it's just not quite there. I think that there is that level, but a lot of the time you just have to get on with it really and keep going.
What is your take on? You see, when I started with Big Finish, and they had brought in the Third Doctor Adventures, and somebody had introduced me to Tim Treloar. And I hadn't heard him yet. And I just felt like I couldn't listen, not because I didn't appreciate it. It was just, I felt like I was abandoning John. I was like doing John a disservice because it was his character. It was his Third Doctor. And we've interviewed Katie twice, and we've actually interviewed Katie with Tim Treloar, and the flirting. Anyways, it was when we first interviewed Katie, and we were asking about Tim and, how he sounded. And, Katie went, darling, if he didn't sound anything like John, I would have never gone up there and done it for myself, or however she talks. But I did listen to the Third Doctor Adventures, and I forgot which one it was. It was, Rufus Hound was the monk. Forgot that series, but
I did the sound on one of those. I think it was the one with him as the monk. Actually, there we go.
Oh, okay. Tim just was spot on. I could not only see him being vocally the Third Doctor, but he spot on the mannerisms of John Pertwee when he did that. I could see him in that. What is your take on people now? Unfortunately, we've lost John Hurt. He's also being somebody else is going to. How do you feel about people kind of coming in and taking over somebody's role and going forward with Big Finish? Because some people, what would you say to people who are kind of uncomfortable about somebody else taking on a role like that?
Yes, of course, it's a difficult one because we all love the original actors who are playing these roles, and they're iconic. John Pertwee and John Hurt, and recently as well we've got the Brigadier. It's a difficult one, but what I would say is that when these actors come in, they're not replacing these other actors. It's not a case of somebody else is coming in to steal that. It's just a nice, loving and touching tribute. I mean, a great example of this is recently we've got John Coleshaw playing the Brigadier, and you can I've been editing the recent story which has just come out, which is The Grey Man of the Mountain, and in that one, here's a little idea just for you of the commitment between from the people actually doing these voices, in that he will do a line and then he'll stop and say, "Oh no, I've suddenly thought that I think actually the Brigadier would probably do it a bit more like this. I think it could be." And so there is a love and attention to detail behind the scenes. And so I think, like anything, if you're uncomfortable with it, that's fine, and I totally understand it, because it's a really it's a difficult situation. But at the same time, the beauty of Doctor Who with all these things is you don't have to listen if you don't want to. I personally, I'm really pleased that we're able to tell these stories in a way that we do at Big Finish. I think it's a loving. Oh, look at that! It's a loving tribute to it, and I don't think we would do it if we didn't feel the right person was going to be providing the voice. So, absolutely, it's an interesting scenario, but I'm just pleased that we've found such fantastic actors to do the job.
And I love that Coleshaw even changed the voice a little bit from when he's been doing the Third Doctor Adventures from when he does with this one, because I just heard this one yesterday, and how he aged him in the voice too to make it more older Brigadier, and that was so amazing. Clever. And so clever. It was just subtle, and I was like, oh my gosh, and I caught it, and I was like, there we go. That's a question for Benji, so I'm glad you brought it up. And then now my other thing I wanted to ask about is the incidental music, the stuff you guys have created in the style of the periods. How is that done? Is that more of a looking at old music sheets, or is it all done by ear, like you were saying earlier? So,
I mean, I can only speak for how I would do it, and frustratingly, I've not had a chance to really go at it with the proper vintage music. I mean, I've worked on a lot of Seventh Doctor stuff, and we've really tried to make it scary and do the horror sort of style of music, so lots of creepy elements. But a lot of the time, I mean, me and Nick, this is all we ever talk about. We love we love looking at how they did these old things. I'm constantly looking up the old gear that people use, the old equipment, and trying to match up with these sounds and just the style and the way people approach things. There's Doctor Who is brilliant. If you study music as well, it's fantastic because there's such a variety in styles. You start off with Tristram Carey's really bizarre machines in which he made his music on. It was all post-wartime gear. He was using these crazy radios stolen from American army bases that he modified to make noise. And moving straight onto Dudley Simpson, who not only mastered the synthy sounds, but also mastered making an orchestral sound out of a room of about 3 or 4 people. So there's such a vast amount to take from it there. And a lot of the time I just do things by ear. I just try to match it how I think it should sound. And a lot of the time, when I did some stuff for Adam Adamant, which is an ancient old show from the 60s over here. It's not time traveling. It's he's an Edwardian chap who goes to the 60s and fights crime. And with that, I managed to get my friends, and we managed to run all of the music and the theme tune through his old reel-to-reel tape machine, so that it's got that actual element. It's got all the instruments that are recorded on it are not sort of period accurate, but they've got a flavor there so that people listening will think, oh, that's interesting. I did that with the second Doctor audios as well. The same thing, just adding elements. And if it makes you suddenly stop and think, oh no, that reminds me of this story, then the job's done. That's the key.
Do you find it a little bit easier?
Hang on, Dave, because we got a hard break. Sorry about that. We'll take that commercial on the other side when we return. Please continue to stay logged on, tuned in, and we're going to continue our discussion with Benji Clifford from Big Finish and Big Finish Podcasts when we continue with the legend of the Traveling TARDIS.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
You have more options than ever before when choosing a film, a television or internet series, a book to curl up with, or even a radio show or podcast. Get to know the people who are creating for you. The Hangin' With Web Show, hosted by award-winning author and journalist G.W. Pomicher, is the internet's fastest-growing web talk show series. The Hangin' With Web Show features professional, yet casual, in-depth interviews with creative arts and entertainment pros. Meet the people behind a digital revolution in creating more quality content than ever before in the history of media. Find the Hangin' With Web Show on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, or simply go to www.hanginwithshow.com. That's www.hanginwithshow.com.
Meet the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
But not the one you were expecting.
All right, sexy. It's time to go home.
Doctor Who Velocity. Streaming now.
This is the legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Also catch us on the HWWS Web TV YouTube channel. Subscribe today and become part of the legend. And whoopsie. I still left it up there. For those of you who also not only subscribe to our Facebook page at facebook.com, The Traveling TARDIS, we are climbing up. Where are we? We surpassed 44,000 followers. 44,000 followers. All of you guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for checking us out. Thank you for just loving it. And also, we're doing the 25 days of Christmas, the 25 Days of Christmas on the Traveling TARDIS, with pictures, videos from Doctor Who to classic and new Traveling TARDIS pictures you're going to be seeing throughout the entire month up until Christmas Day. And we're going to have a special episode. Melanie, I'm excited about this, so I'm going to announce it. Next Tuesday, joining us live is Phantasmagoria for their appearance again, doing a Christmas Carol special for us live, narrated, or at least for right now, hosted by Simon Fisher-Becker himself, Dorian Moldovar, who's one of our panelists, and he's going to be starting off the show there. And we'll be working out the bug. We're working on this, but this will be simulcast with Wizard World. We are very excited. This is the important part. This is the big thing. So if you just happen to be a fan of Wizard World, hopefully we will be streaming over there as well. So we're totally excited about this particular episode. And then we're going to be ending the year on, I think it's Tuesday the 29th, where we're going to be doing our predictions for Revolution of the Daleks. And then on New Year's Day, we're going to be doing the review of Revolution of the Daleks. Melanie, you had something for us. Is that correct?
Oh, just, as Benji was just talking, I had photos to show of what he exactly Tristram Carey's machinery was. So there's a nice little black and white one there. And then here, because he was mugging to the camera, a little bit more, especially when you can see here I am, right? Whoop, there. Here we go. See, for the youngins out there, that would be a reel-to-reel.
I mean, that is it's just insane. The crazy thing that all of that fits inside a little box that I'm talking to you on right now.
It's just, this little box right here?
It can do. Yeah, exactly. The Big Finish app.
Yes.
You can
Big Finish app.
Oh, there you are.
Here we go.
Yes.
Make sure if you get a chance, go to bigfinish.com, and you can actually I know Google Play, I Google Store. I'm sure you can download it anywhere for free. Just download the Big Finish app. And all of this month of December, there are specials going. My email keeps getting buzzed every day. It's 50% off Torchwood, 20% off of this, 30% off of that. And I'm just
or just follow their Facebook page. You'll get the little notifications there.
Exactly.
And free ones too, which is amazing.
Free
there's
episodes.
Loads of free goods. There's loads of free stuff, free episodes on the podcast as well. We offer a 15-minute preview of new releases at the end of the podcast, and as well as that, you can also, we do the Randomoid Selectatron, which is once a week. We will pluck a random release from the Big Finish archive, and then what you need to do is you can enter in a special code, which I will give away here, which is Buck Up. That's all capital letters, no spaces, no complications. Enter that one in on the website, and you get 25% off. So just a little. You heard it here first.
All right, so don't forget to use that deal. Tell them the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS sent you, and then tell Nick Briggs that I sent it. He was giving me a hard time. He goes, "Why haven't you downloaded all the Sherlock Holmes?" I said, because I either have to pay rent or download all the Sherlock Holmes. So which one do I get? And now that you're having the sales, now I have no excuse. Now I got to download all that stuff there. So.
One thing I want to say real quick before we start wrapping up and all that. What I love most about Big Finish is the fact that every time I seem to think that you've hit this plateau and things are going to level out, something else comes out that just takes it to yet another level. And it just seems to me like Big Finish is always ever growing, ever evolving, and always has something entertaining, for folks old and young. And I just want to say, you guys are fantastic. Just amazing.
Well, it's all just down to all the fantastic people that we have working for us. That's the thing. There's such a huge team now growing all the time of just talented individuals. And it's just so lovely. It's so lovely to know that people out there are enjoying what we do. You only have to be if we're in the UK, we do the Big Finish Day, which is our kind of Big Finish special event where a lot of the writers and all sorts of people there, you only have to spark up a chat with them and you can feel their enthusiasm. Sitting with them is this crazy thing. You only have to mention a character from the vast catacombs of Big Finish and Doctor Who, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, that's good. Maybe we could do this. Maybe they'd be good for that." You think, how have you suddenly thought up an idea? We've not even finished our coffee yet. It's crazy. So we're just lucky to have so many fantastic people, really, just with so many great ideas.
I just got. Does anybody have a last minute question? Because I got a final question for Benji there. Benji, close it out. Benji, I just have a question for you. Of all the things you've done for Big Finish Productions,
oh no,
not necessarily your most favorite, but what makes you the most proud? What one would you say that this is my element and here I am? This is the episode you should be listening to. This is Benji Clifford in one episode.
Benji Clifford in one episode. Gosh, that's a really, really difficult one to answer. But I would have to say, I think the Time War box set, the Time War series, Time War 1 for me, not just because it was a huge thing for me as a Doctor Who fan, as a Daleks fan, to do the Daleks for the first time. And it's such a huge scale to have the honor of doing the first Time War box set, the first time Big Finish visits the Time War. That for me was just so special, and a huge privilege to do the Daleks. And if you listen to those, you'll hear all kinds of tiny little Easter eggs from Doctor Who. One little thing I will say is every time I'm working on a Doctor Who that has Dalek ships or Dalek bases, you will hear the doors from the original Doctor Who and the Daleks story. You will hear them in glorious HD. So that was, for me, that's one I'm very proud of. It meant a lot to be able to do that and get asked to do that. And so I would say check that out. But honestly, there's so many releases and so many, whatever you pick, whether it's something I've worked on or whether it's all the other talented sound designers, I guarantee you'll have a lovely time. They're just, it's a pleasure to work for Big Finish.
Awesome. Well, Benji, thank you so much. For anybody who wants to stay after, we're going to have the after show party there. But I can't reiterate and I can't stress any further. For those of you, just remember, hug your loved ones, get in contact with them. And this holiday season, and it's even more important right now. We've lost a friend who we thought we were going to see next year. And I think it's just more important now as we enter 2021 to just remember who's important to us, what's important to us. And we want to wish you everyone a safe, I think Hanukkah's still going on, right? But everybody, we want you to stay safe, wash your hands, and be careful out there, because we want to see you all in the next year, where 2021 will hopefully be the year that we should have had in 2020 there. So from all of us here at the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, happy holidays. Thanks for joining us. And, well, I guess for a better term, thank you. There we go. Now we are at the after party. Benji, this just means that the audio recording is over. But yeah,
we're still live.
We're still live. The audio recording is over. If anybody wants to get in their last minute questions for Benji or any of us.
Was this the correct one?
Yeah,
that's
volume
one. Yeah, that's the one.
Okay. I was trying to find it as fast as I could.
You're on it. You're on it.
But there's so many volumes.
The video now.
The pressure's on.
Yeah, whenever you see me during the show and I suddenly start doing this.
I'm just letting Nick go. No, this is scrolling forever right now.
Yeah, mine's honestly, it's the same for me. When I'm trying to find a release or something, I'm like, if I have to reference a story from years ago, it takes me a million years to find it as well. We just have so many things. Oh dear.
As someone who was there in the Lost Wilderness years, at Big Finish, stumbling on Big Finish, I think I stumbled on it with the Companion Chronicles because of Jago and Lightfoot.
The best.
That was so good. And then, of course, following them for years, and then realizing there was this other range that I didn't even know about, because I was just following Jago and Lightfoot at first, and then, and then of course traveling through all that, and then you guys have just done such incredible work with everything, and I love the old classic Doctors coming back with the new monsters. That series was great, and then just so many good things. So thank you again for helping us and taking part of this, and sharing your knowledge. We had a blast. So.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to be, and it's so nice to have all of you really appreciating what we do. It's just so lovely to know, because I'm just literally spend my life in this room making noise on things like this all day long, slaving away in the name of noise. It's really nice to experience the other end where people actually listen to it and see their faces, and it's awesome, absolutely awesome. So thank you so much.
Oh, I should have asked during the show, but I'll ask it now. Did you get any guff from people when they heard that when they heard the news of the Doctor Who main range was stopping, as if they were thinking that, oh my God, we're not getting any more Doctor Who, because until I kept reading.
That's been a reoccurring thing on the podcast that we've kept answering, and of course it's a tricky one because we're all, it's the main range has been going for such a long time, hasn't it? Years and years and years, and so to call a close to that, of course, is gonna, everybody's gonna be thinking, what's happening now? But honestly, it's in safe hands. It was a creative decision, but I think it's going to wield some really good results and open up different paths and different things that we can do with our classic Doctors as well, which is super exciting. So, really, as we were saying before, it's hopefully this is just another way to kind of elevate it and move it in a different direction.
Gotcha. My wife was happy that my subscription wasn't going to be going, but then she realized, now I'm going to be spending it all on more box sets.
Oh, thank you, Chris. Thank you so much.
Chris David, the theme for Adam. I
knew he was going to
fantastic. Was a full version recorded, including ending credits. Was it?
Ooh, so there wasn't. It was. Well, there were plans to do it, but this is an interesting story. There were plans to do it, but my friend Louise, lovely, she's cheers. She had a baby with her at the time, and the baby had just been born. Talk about bad timing when we want to get some Big Finish work done. But the baby had just been born, and there was nobody to look after the baby. So we were in the studio, and she had to do. She tried to take with the baby like this and tried to sing, but the baby was started to stir, so we had to do this thing where her sister luckily came around, was able to look after the baby in the other room, so she ran into the studio, would sing her Adamant lines, and we managed to do that the opening music, and then the baby might make a sound. She said, I've got to go back, so she'd suddenly run away, and then we get a text saying, I'm coming through now, or she'd shout through. So she'd suddenly run in, go, bold as a knight in white armor. Oh, I've got to go to the baby. So it's like, so we didn't quite make it to the end because we planned on a long thing. Maybe it's something we could do one day.
I want to hear that version. I want to hear that. The whole day.
Adam Adamant of the baby. But maybe we'll do another one. We've got more Adam Adamant coming up, so who knows?
That's great. Got Jack Ward says, what I'm interested in is how did the whole idea came up in the very, very, very first time that someone thought getting the retired Doctor to create in radio, and how much cajoling does it? First of all, good lunch. There you go. I think that's
the key. We say you will eat well. Well, it all starts with Nick and Jason, who is, of course, our Lord and Master, the head of Big Finish. They both were doing something called audio visuals, which is back in the wilderness years of Doctor Who. We had great fan audios and fan films as well. I noticed you had the trailer for Doctor Who Velocity, which I think is brilliant. Big fan. I think it's really fantastic. I love all that stuff. That's how Big Finish kind of started that way. And then they thought, oh, we're onto something here. This is actually quite good. What we're doing here is because Nick used to record all of his, as I'm sure he used to record Doctor Who. using a microphone up to his telly. And so they thought they could translate that into kind of audio drama. I think the first Doctor that we got in, obviously we did the multi-Doctor thing, but certainly the first that we got in, I think, was Paul, maybe. I can't remember. But
yeah, it was. I think Nick was telling me that you guys thought that Tom would be the one who would say yes, but it ended up being Paul to say yes, because Paul was kind of getting in. I think at that time he was getting into Hollywood. He did the Three Musketeers, so he was moving out and about, and then Tom would do it, but it was the opposite. You ended up getting Paul, and Tom was the one who was going,
Well, and it's a weird one, and here we are now, where we've just got news that Christopher Eccleston, is involved with us now, which is just incredible. He's been in studio, today. This is happening. It just goes to show, that who knows with Big Finish Doctor, who knows what happens and when it happens. It just, when it's right for somebody, and it might never be right for some people. There might be doctors out there who just not for them, and that's cool, and I completely understand, because it's a weird, wacky thing that we do. But at the same time, who'd have thought, here we are now, we've got such a huge amount of not just doctors, but also original cast members from all walks of life, all different eras of Doctor Who, doing one thing at this time. So I think it's certainly lovely as well that for these people who do a lot of conventions and stuff like that, they're meeting Doctor Who people, and people are saying to them, I love what you did in this. It's another way of doing something nice for the fans, which I think is lovely.
All I know is if somebody told me a year ago that a friend of theirs approached them and said, hey, somebody told me that Chris Eccleston's going to be reprising the roles of the Doctor, I'd say, okay, go find out what he's drinking and get me a bottle of it. Because I would have never believed it in a million years.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It is crazy, but it's just, how lucky are we? How lucky are we to not just have him on board with us, but also how lucky are we to listen to it as well and be able to actually hear that? Because honestly, it's just wonderful. So it's just a joy. Honestly, it is. I can't wait to listen to it.
I think the one that floored me the other day was getting Tenet with K9 and Leela and all the and I'm just like, what? What?
It is like
now
in the toy
there's
shop,
no
isn't
limit.
it?
There's no limit at all. They can meet each other, go to different places. Ten can meet Joe Grant again. I mean, you can go into anything, and now that you've got Tim Treloar, you can have like a multi-Doctor, like a huge one through. I wish Capaldi would jump in too. I wish he was coming in. Is he coming in? Please tell me he's coming.
Well, there's no news of him coming in at the moment. But it's one of those things. Who knows what will happen?
Right.
And when because people are so busy doing other jobs and doing other things and other exciting projects, and then one day, if the time is right and the situation is right, hopefully it will work out. It'd be lovely. So we can but hope. But at the same time, we're just grateful that we've already got so many fantastic people. And like you say, isn't it brilliant? Doctor Who's one of the few shows we can actually do this. You can't do it with many other shows that you can say, oh yeah, we've got somebody who was in Doctor Who in 1967. Why don't we put them in with somebody that was in Doctor Who in, 2007? And that'll work. You couldn't do that with anything else, could you? It just wouldn't work the same way. Star Trek, maybe. You could do it in Star Trek, actually.
But that would be kind of a one-off. You couldn't have Kirk just show up on Voyager all of a sudden that like 600 times. I mean, but you can have everybody.
You're not in charge anymore, Kirk.
I think one of the most interesting off-the-wall combos that you all ever did that caught me off guard was Katie Manning and John Barrowman as Joe Jones and Captain Jack put together in an adventure. That was
so great.
The golden combination there as well. And it's lovely, with these personalities being able to put people together and watch those sparks and watch them bounce off each other. It's just wicked, isn't it? It's just so lovely.
Yes.
And I've got to say, for the Benji and Nick show, you guys, I mean, I thought I was Mr. King of the Nerds here. You guys do some deep cuts on some of that minuscule data that I sit there and go, how are they inside my head? How did they?
So much confusion in my mind.
So dark in there.
It's one of those. I'm like, okay, the right people will get this, but I'm just like, but no, they just know. They know the right person is out there for it. They don't care. It's just, I'm always like, oh well, I better not say that. That's something so obscure. But then you guys, boom, it's out.
Well, it's gonna be more in your favor. We've gone stateside with it all now because we've got Shelley Dean, who's from the USA. So she's now putting it in our, giving us your shows to look at, and this is her domain where she'll remember. We did Land of the Lost the other day, which I'm sure you'll all be familiar with. Me and Nick didn't sit well with us, but but we were chuckling and we were saying the beauty of it is nostalgia is a crazy thing, isn't it? That Shelley was there grinning ear to ear, so happy and full of love watching this show and saying, oh, I remember this so much, this character in this episode, and this happened here, and this, that, and we're there like, really? I suppose the Doctor, it's not Doctor Who, is it? But we're nerds, and that's what we do in our spare time. We just text each other all day long saying, in the evenings, I'm watching this at the moment. You say, yeah, I'm watching this at the moment. It's just constant.
Waiting for Hawk the Slayer. I want you guys to take on Hawk the Slayer.
That would be really good, wouldn't it? Oh, yes. Yeah. That's a real oddity as well.
That's a classic. Oddity. Lord of the Rings with a budget of about $12. So,
they pull it off. They pull it off in a fun way, and I wish there was more. You know what? I can already predict. I will love it. Nick will hate it.
Yeah,
Guaranteed.
that'll be. That's why I want to hear the take on it. And then you got Richard Benjamin, Jago hiding a little cameo in there. So I'm awesome. I'd love to see.
What more do you need? What more do you need?
Yeah, exactly.
Are we just putting a big finished episode together as we speak?
Yes, we are. The next podcast. I'm setting up my dream Nick and Benji podcast right there.
This is it.
He's doing his elevator pitch right now.
We were
like just like I keep telling you, it's not as easy as it sounds, literally. Because now some folks know this, very few do. I do my own audio adventure series called The Adventures of Dr. Freedom and Eric, and I've been doing this for the last couple of years. And they're like, well, all you got to do is this, and this. I go, yeah, but then you got to, for my case, I have to find copyright-free music. I have to find sound effects, plus the fact that, all my actors, I send them the script. They send their recordings to me. I try to give them a little direction, with the script, saying, try saying it this way, something like that, because we normally can't all get together because we're from all over the place. And it's like, the one thing I found out, I'm my own worst critic. It's like, because when you're sitting there, you put it together, and even after I have the final edit, now I don't know if this happens to you or not, I'll be sitting there like a week later going, oh my God, I could have made that sound so much better. I could have done so. I could have done this.
Any project like writing or something like that. As soon as you submit, because I used to, when I submit my plays, I'm like, oh God, I should have changed. I should have just, I should have made that action, or I should have expanded on that there. I was joking, I think with Tim, I said, let's do something like this. Let's get Katie, let's get Annette, let's get Terry, and we're just going to 6 of us sit here, and you guys just start improvising. We're going to hit the record button. We'll send that to Big Finish as an audio for them. And you're just going to improvise your characters. We're not going to tell you the story. You're just going to figure it out, and you just go. So that will be the Big Finish.
This is genius. It's so intricate. It's perfect.
So we could do Big Finish improv on StreamYard there. It could be could be the new
dream, isn't it? That's the dream. I think, with creative things, it's a case of everybody, no matter what they do, whether they're a singer, an actor, a writer, a sound engineer, whenever you listen to your own stuff, you're always going to be critical of it. It's like that. The amount of times, I sing in a band and I write music and stuff. The amount of times I'll lay down like a vocal, and I'll listen to it back, and I'll say, this is just dreadful. How can I possibly, that doesn't sound right. And then everybody else in the room will be there like, this sounds the same as every other take and it sounds fine. Stop going over it. Stop trying to redo it. It's done. But you always want to, you just always want to do your best. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can only do what you can do. That's the way I look at it.
So what series would you like if you had your dream show that you could convert to Big Finish? What series would that be?
Ooh, licensing be damned. You can get it.
Licensing be damned.
Anything you want.
Oh, I've got two. Can I have two? Can I have one?
Of course.
Okay, well, the obvious one is Star Trek. That's just a given, isn't it? I feel like that's why I've got two, because Star Trek is like the one, like that's the dream for me. I want to be doing I want to do all the original series stuff. Actually, that would just, for me, that would be wicked. Next Gen's cool, and I'd like to do the music. That was early Next Gen was done on the Roland D50 keyboard. So boring, isn't it? And if I had a dream show that I could bring in, it's a show called The Tripods. From the BBC, which was never finished. And that's why I want to bring it in, because they just discontinued it on a cliffhanger, which I think is a bit unfair. So we never got to see the rest of it. And so, funnily enough, I'm really good friends with one of the original cast. Catweasel, yes. Yes. Dalme, I don't know. It's Catweasel. I'd love that, but at the same time, with Catweasel is one of those ones. I don't know if I'd want to touch it because it's so perfect. I can say that now, but the Germans have just gone and made a film. So, who am I to judge? Who knows? But that's just perfection for me, Catweasel. But no, Tripods is the one for me. I'd love to do that. Absolutely, that's dream territory. What about you? What would all of you like? Licensing be damned. What would you like us to do?
God. Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. with Bruce Campbell.
Wow.
Yes. I literally
anything with Bruce Campbell.
Anything Bruce Campbell, but that's the one. They were setting it up to go so much. I mean, you'd have to recast Julius Carey because he's no longer with us, but everybody else, man, and Bruce is retired from physical acting as far as he's concerned. So there you go. You got him. Give him a call.
Mark. I would already buy that.
Yep.
That's pre-ordered straight off, isn't it?
Yep.
That's the thing,
exactly.
Isn't it wicked though, that as well you can get, people that have stopped physically acting, or people that aren't able in some cases. And is it brilliant that they can actually just go up there and do their own thing and actually, still enjoy it and still get involved?
Like I said, back in the 80s, it was, we were doing Swamp Thing and Superboy, and Patrick McNee had retired here to Florida, and like I said, he was wheelchair bound. He couldn't do anything anymore, and we would wheel him in. I literally would wheel him from his car into the sound room, and then he would ramble for a little bit, and we'd record the computer dialogue or whatever it would be, and then we would edit that into the episode at some point. Hopefully, he was sober enough for it to come through, but he was always on a tirade about something, and it was amazing. But I look at that now. Now he would have just been able to sit in his house and do it. It wouldn't have been all the production, because there would be days where we wouldn't be able to do it because he just was not able. And I'm like, but now he could have just done it out of his bed, or something. We could have done that. So he loved it.
Well, you do get people now who think, why do I need to go to the studio anymore? I'm quite happy doing this in my pajamas, sitting at home. And obviously they don't get the great lunch. That's the only thing, and we can't send out the lunch. I'm sure they wish we could. I'm sure that'd be in the contract.
Uber.
Yeah. I'll do it if you Uber me all of the food.
Yeah.
Don't leave out the salmon. But it is, the future is now, and it's crazy what can actually be done from and even then, doing my job now is a dream, because it's so digital. I can just do it on this screen. I can sit here. I can stop. I don't have to worry. It sits on a hard drive. It doesn't even take up any physical space. Whereas if I was doing this job 25 years ago, I'd have, DAT tapes, reel to reel, all sorts of things. I'd have to physically store it. I'd have a room, to do the sound effects. I can just be like, oh, what's that sound that I did like 6 months ago? I'll just drag that in, drag and drop. That's how I got my sound effects on drag and drop now. Whereas there, it would be like going through all these records or picking out the one thing. Take me forever. That's the difference.
And
you can rattle off.
And you're editing record wild tracks and stuff to try to get bird sounds and stuff like that for background noises and all that. That was the worst. Just sitting there with a parabolic mic out the woods. Come on, bird, sing. I gotta get
one job.
You're editing linearly. Also, there's none of this jumping back and forth. Oh God,
absolutely. It's a different way. I do things in scene blocks now. So when you've got a location, I tend to do it via the location. So I can be like, if you're in the TARDIS, say there's 4 TARDIS scenes, I'll just do them in a block. That'll be my day. I'll sit and TARDIS. Next day I'll be like, oh, we're on the planet Zog. I don't know. We'll do wherever that is. So it's done in a completely easy and different way. So I'm very grateful that it's just such a chill way of working rather than how it could be if we didn't have the technology. Which would be hell. Completely different.
I think they look at you. They would look at your facilities back then and go like, "What are you doing? Launching a space shuttle? No, I'm sound editor for Big Finish."
Honestly, it feels like it now when people come in here and say, "Wow, what on earth's going on here?" Because I've got like sliders and synths and controllers and all sorts, and it's like it is like being in the cockpit, And so it's. I mean, a great example actually. Here's a nerdy thing. So I've recently started rewatching Batman the animated series from years gone by, which is really good.
Brilliant. That, and it holds up.
It really holds up. Now if I'm not, I mean, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that when they put that together, that must have been old school techniques to do it. Because when was this? What, late 80s, early 90s?
Yep, I'd say early 90s.
Yeah,
early mid 90s. Yeah. Early 90s because I watched it.
I remember watching it. I remember watching on Cartoon Network over here in the UK, but I'm pretty sure that was like tape and old school techniques and individual footsteps, and it absolutely brilliant. That's up there. You could listen to that now, and it's fine. It sounds arguably just as good, if not better, than some things now that you can watch.
It was 92 to 90. It was 92. So you're looking, it might have been just starting to push the technology, but it could have easily been. Because if over here, if I remember correctly, it was on Fox. Like Fox animated.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Warner Brothers did it, didn't they? So that would make.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been Fox. It was Warner.
No, it was Warner Brothers produced it, but Fox was running it. Fox was trying to be the new.
At least here, stateside.
Yeah.
We're in charge now. It's maybe they would have used old like Amiga computers or something. I don't know. Such a geek. Sorry, I just love learning all the gear. That's my passion. If that's one thing I can put across is I do love all the little detail. Like that.
Well, Superboy and Swamp Thing was all done on Commodore Amigas. So
oh my god!
Yes, no way.
Commodore Amigas, old Chiron machines. And I think we had a Yamaha keyboard was 90% of our music.
Yamaha. Well, I'll tell you something, right? In terms of like my go-to keyboards that I use, I've got a lot of like lovely, gorgeous, modern orchestral things that I use. But if I'm looking for like a lot of the time, if I'm looking for like some sounds, I've got a Yamaha DX7 and I've got a Roland D50. And both of those are like the pioneers of synth music in like late 80s and 90s. That was TV music. Everything and the Korg M1. This is so boring. I'm so sorry for anybody not.
I'm enjoying it. Screw the rest of them. I'm fine with this.
You're good.
These are like TV workhorses. These are what This is at the time when suddenly a composer didn't need to hire an orchestra, or they didn't need because it was in a box. And I still use them now. I still find like DX7 and the Korg. I'm like I could just get that on the Korg M1 and it sounds fine. Bongo drums, bang, get that on the Korg. And this was released. This synthesizer existed before I was born. So like that's crazy. First series was hand drawn.
I was an intern on those shows, and so I was just watching the masters work at this stuff. And then my job was just to sit with Patrick McNee and keep him talking. So and then but then I got to work with some of that. Yeah. That was not an easy job sometimes, but then we got to go in to do some of the other fun stuff, and I got to learn all that equipment, and that was crazy back in the day. And now I look at it and I'm like, it's still, I can only imagine it's just as insane, just now different technology. So, like you said, you don't have to store it all physically, which is nice. So
you get, it's just more power in smaller spaces, really.
What do you think of my new look as the Dalek for Big Finish Audio?
Christian,
I think it looks like something out of Blake 7.
What's that? He doesn't give a shit. Anyways.
That's what he has to wear in the shed. Yeah. He's slowly turning into Batman himself, and that's the Briggs cave. And he's got his costume sorted out. He just needs like a trash bag as a sort of cape, and he'll be spot on. Maybe some
that make you Robin?
Batman.
At night I fight crime. As Briggsman.
Briggsman, the animated series. Let's do it.
Briggsman and Benji.
Briggsman, the animated series. That's it.
I'm Briggsman.
I'm down.
Guys, start drawing yourself now. Do it old school style animated.
Yep.
That would be crazy though if he started going around Big Finish Studios going, I'm Briggsman.
He would. That's the thing. I know him well enough. Although he'd probably say the running joke on the Benji Nick show is he's Briggsman, because anything that's got man at the end, fireman, policeman, it's mun. So you have to say, yeah, he's Briggsman, Cyberman, Batman, Spiderman. That's the gag. We love it. Nobody else does, but we love it.
Dalek Man.
Just Dalekman. Yeah.
Dalekman.
Yeah. No, now you got to come up. Now you got to come up with a theme for Briggsman.
I'll do it as well. He'd probably write it himself.
He'll do it right now.
He'd say, "No, I want to do it. Let me do it." Get out the old synthesizers and start playing. But he's the same. You know, I said to him,
keyboard. Ding, 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 ding.
That's all we need. That's all you need. He's the same as me. Like there are synths and stuff that I've bought, and I was like, "Oh, Nick, you should grab this." And he's like, "I bought it. I've already done it now." And he's sitting there because he does the music for the third Doctor event stuff, and he does it all analog. He does it like twisting dials on old Moog synths. So he's the same. Absolute geek.
Oh my God.
Absolute.
Love it.
That's one thing I love about the third Doctor Adventures is how much the music sounds just the same.
Yep.
As the television series. I love the way that just sets the mood. It really does.
Well, Nick is great like that because he loves it the same as I do. I mean, this is a funny thing actually. When we do Big Finish Day, it's quite a drive for us because it's sort of Midlands, slightly up north, and we're obviously down south. Nick's London, and I'm so far on the south coast that I'm closer to France than I am to the venue. So, so I nip up to London and we hire a van and we drive up to this venue. And honestly, all we do, normal human beings will say, "Oh yeah, I've got this great Eric Clapton record. Let's listen to that on the way," or something like that. No, what do we do? We're sitting there like, why don't we put on this soundtrack today? So we've got we're listening to the old Doctor Who, John Pertwee soundtracks for, things like the Sea Devils. We're rocking with $1 Billion Brain. Have you ever seen that film? It's sort of, it's Michael Caine film. And that's terrible, Michael Caine. But another one. We're listening to that. We listen to Adam West Batman, the movie soundtrack. We had it all, and that's what we just love listening to it, honestly. And so with the stuff like the third Doctor stuff, that's honestly because it's just burnt into our brains. And certainly with Nick's brain, he knows exactly what it sounds like.
Oh, is it on?
Yes. Look at that.
Oh my God.
Is that from the great release as well? The is it the 50th they released the extended stuff? Yeah. Go. The dream. I love it.
My whole thing. That's half my freaking iPod is just folders of scores and more scores and more scores.
I was legitimately going to ask, so whose phone has all this on it? Yours or his? And then here comes Dave. Yeah.
I've already my only has 30 gigs, so it's mostly Big Finish.
I put it on the cloud. The cloud is where I keep my goods. The good thing
I've got like the original King Kong, 33 King Kong. I think that's probably the weirdest most obscure one on here. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Hawk the Slayer.
I think the most obscure one I've got is a film, The Last Man on Earth.
Yes, Vincent Price. Oh,
yes. That's probably as obscure as I can get, that's a wicked film. It's a very weird film. Mostly just him walking around going, "I need some more garlic." But it's still a rocking film,
Oh, good.
It's mainly him going around, and you hear his monologue going off as he's going along. Yeah, I love that movie though. It's it's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. Yeah.
Was that Corman or Castle? I can't remember. It's one of the two. So it's great.
Yeah, it was one of the first film adaptations of I Am Legend, if I remember right. Yeah.
I think it was the first, wasn't it? There might have been.
May have been the first. Yeah.
I think Omega Man later.
Yeah, Mega Man came way later with Charlton Heston and all that.
Yeah.
So good though. I love all those old things. And again, there's a lot to be learned from old music, isn't there? Listen to it back. They're the pros.
I just Googled it. Last Man on Earth was the first adaptation of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And my favorite one.
Who else? Done some of the like the old Hammer stuff. I know Gaddis is kind of leading the charge on that because you guys did Blood on Satan's Claw and stuff like that, where you remade, and that was again sounded just like a freaking stepped out of the movie again. It was like extended cuts of the songs. I'm like, that wasn't in the original soundtrack. I have that soundtrack. But it sounds like it came right from it. So,
it's crazy, isn't it? That level of detail. I mean, when anything that Mark Gatiss is involved in is, especially in the horror scheme of things, it's going to be spot on because he is a connoisseur. He did a great BBC documentary series on horror, the origins of horror, where he visited, some of these awesome castles. That was incredible.
You still watch it on YouTube. It's great.
Yeah,
it is really good, and it's I remember once I tweeted him, just said I need to watch a horror movie tonight. What do you recommend? And he did get back to me, so that was always good. It was really, I can't remember what it was. It was really obscure. I remember that.
All right, so when you guys start doing Catermass, I'll be down for that too. So
that's a dream, though. That is something I know several people at Big Finish who would love to do that.
That'd be good.
With all these things, it's down to rights. That's all it is. That's the key. Sometimes
we're proposing job security here. We're just throwing
more ideas up. I've got to run, gang. I'm sorry. I've got another call I got to be on.
No. Go for it. Yeah, boo. But
thank you so much, Chris. It was an honor. So I love listening to the podcast. I love your work. So thank you so much for letting me nerd out a little bit.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much as well. And cheers for having me on here. It's been wicked.
No, this has been fun. I know it's late over there. So anybody happy holidays, gang. Anybody have any last minute questions for Benji?
I want to go back to it really fast because I didn't get to answer it. His rights be damned deflection.
Licensing be damned. Sorry.
Number one, I think everybody else on this call is going to agree with it. At childhood's end. The only person who would agree is Christian because Christian can't friggin' say it.
Shut up.
Say the title, Christian.
At childhood's end. Thank you.
Jesus, he did it.
First time ever.
I've been practicing.
But that would be. I want to hear that full cast, full blown everything.
And not only that. And not only that, but if for some reason Jody does not want to do Big Finish, get Sophie. She's on 13. She has nailed it.
Her 13 impression was incredible. That really helped me get into the book even more. She was very good narrator.
Well, there's always a key, with these things. I think the current Doctor certainly is the current. That's a whole different beast. That's that's going on the telly.
Yes.
So it's very hard. So far, that's never. It's very difficult because obviously they're doing their own things. So it's kind of you don't want to mix it up with another because we're a sort of separate entity really. So but who knows one day? Who knows if we get Jodie? That'd be fab. There are so many great things though. I'd love Big Finish to do. I think like the Critical Role stuff. If you're a fan of tabletop gaming and stuff like that. Ooh, Matthew Mercer, get him involved.
Here's your man.
Get him. That's why I'm suggesting. Get some of that. Get some, work with Dungeons and Dragons. That'd be wicked. Get some D&D stuff on the go. Things like that, I think, could be really cool to be able to tell different stories and for a whole different audience as well. I'd love us to do a Western. I'd love that.
I just because I love the series and it's my second favorite series. Torchwood and this series always jump on top of each other for my second favorite series, but they always keep coming back, and I would love Red Dwarf to go to Big Finish Audio.
Yeah,
I was watching Red Dwarf this morning. How weird is that? There we go.
Which series? Which episode?
It was I think it was series 5, the one where they back to reality. I think it's called. The first Wayne Dibley episode. Wayne Dibley, love it a bit. I'd love that. The Red Dwarf. They can come to Big Finish. That'd be fab. But at the moment, I'm just happy them still making it and still doing.
I know, and they're just. I hope that. Have you seen The Promised Land?
Do you know what? I've got it ready and I've got it recorded, but I'm not like all these things. I'm just always working, and when I finish working, I just need to not focus on something. So I've got it ready for when I've got a day off, and then I'm
just going to say this. I'm not going to spoil it, but if they ended the
Don't
series
spoil
with
it.
it's good. But I mean, like everything that they kind of loose ended on other things, they finally wrapped it up and pulled it together and said, okay, let's do this. And it was just kind of nice because it kind of goes back to everything where it began and kind of moves on from there. And it was just like some of the stuff. And Holly's back. That's Norman Lovett. Yeah.
Stop talking.
No, he's in the cast anyway. So I'm just
Spoilers!
I just love that the four of them together. It's
telling you, you have the mute button. You have control over him.
Unless he mutes himself, I can't unmute him. Hence why he was muted.
I will send the Nick Briggs after you.
The Briggsman. The Briggsman.
Yeah.
Let's see when
I was carry on.
No, I was gonna say when you said like the whole licensing being damned, I was going with all the stuff that I wish I had more of, like I wanted Farscape or Sliders or all the stuff I used to watch. Those two, it's like sci-fi time travel-y stuff. Surprise!
Now that I say it like that, it sounds like Briggsman should be an organization like Kingsman. But
Briggsman, John Carter, yeah. I mean, you know, if you're going really obscure, let's have Prince Valiant. You know, I'm just saying, there's just so many, you know, crazy things that I'd love us to do. You know, yeah. I mean, if it's things, what do I want more of? I don't know. I think Farscape is rocking. Love a bit of Farscape.
Well, if we're going to go, I'm bringing in Jason of Star Command.
Okay. That's fair play. Fair play.
Or one that always got me, like I said, I don't think it's ever going to happen, was when we saw the movie The Black Hole. Mm-hmm. And the crew of the Palomino mentions they'd been in tougher scrapes before. I always thought it'd be interesting, you know, what other adventures had this crew had before they came upon the Cygnus in this movie. That would be an interesting story to follow, as, you know, the further adventures of the Palomino, you know. But that's just me.
Well, they had a comic book, that's supposed to take place after they go through the black hole, so I think that would be a nice series there. What did they discover on the other side too?
Yeah.
Sorry, Benji.
So you've got two possibilities there straight away. Then, really. Yeah. The thing is, you can pull. That's the beauty of what it is. The medium is that you can do anything like that. You know, I understand that it's not as commercial as like just making a TV show, and that the vast majority of the public aren't going to be as into it as people, because I think Doctor Who, and it's Big Finish has been around for so long, Doctor Who fans are so familiar with it in that circle that listening to Big Finish is quite an automatic thing. Like you
guys are one of the few that can still do it on CD, though. Like most people can't get away with it anymore.
Yeah,
it's like you and like Colonial Radio Theater out of Boston.
It's mad, you know, and the main reason we do the CDs is just because at the moment people still want them and people still like collecting them, and so at the same time, I expect there will one day there'll be a point, I expect, where it will get to the point where we say, well, you know, nobody's buying the CDs anymore, because people will get to the point where they get used to just downloading as technology improves. But certainly at the moment, I think, you know, CDs are just part of what we do, and they're beautiful. That's the other thing. They are beautiful.
Yeah.
I love them. There we go. There's the Greyman of the mountain.
Greyman.
But the Greyman. But I love it.
Having a chronological Narnia series that's like in a vinyl sized case, and it's like 5 on, and it's all it's Narnia in chronological order rather than in book order.
Then there's nothing wrong with that. We do it. It's like, you know, Doctor Who. There's so many different ways you can do it. It's always interesting when I see people's collections of, especially when people bundle up Big Finish and their DVDs of Doctor Who, because they'll put them in like story order. You think, wow, and then there are some that you're like, oh, you put it there, but it could be there. Like, really? Like, it could be over there. It could be anywhere. Like that's the nature of the show. You know, it is topsy turvy, isn't it?
You just have to buy multiple copies.
That's the best answer, isn't it? I think buy them all, buy everyone, hard sell, buy them.
So why don't we do the one thing that none of it could have taken place at the time? Why don't we have the crossovers, Doctor Who and Blake 7, Doctor Who and Dark Shadows. I mean, completely go mad with other stories and just the what if selections now. What if this happened?
You're pulling from our conversation now.
Licensing. It's better licensing.
No. But I meant I'm like, yeah, the licensing be damned. I mean, if we're going into this route, why
if
not?
it's a licensing be damned situation, then of course. I mean, there is a comic book, isn't there? Doctor Who meets Star Trek. I seem to recall.
Yeah.
Assimilation or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So these things do exist. I think, again, doing them on a serious basis, you run the risk of upsetting people who are happy with things the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
If the Doctor suddenly wandered onto the bridge of the Liberator, people are going to be like, what? No, these are like two separate things. We can't have them together. But then there is all that. There is that dream, isn't there? Like, wouldn't it be insane if it was some weird universe where John Pertwee goes and has a beer with Avon? Who knows? It's just.
But we've had the Doctor Who Unbounds. I still argue to this day. Everybody says Jodie Whittaker was the first, and I said no. And Bill Weir was the first. I argue with them and said, no, you don't listen to your Big Finish. And I said, Exile is the first.
Yeah,
Doctor
Exile.
And Nick, when I mentioned it to him, Nick was kind of downing it because he feels bad that it's like he didn't want the first female Doctor the way that he treated. And I said, no, this is just a what if. It's not you're coming in here and saying somebody's going to be taking over as a female and this is how the Doctor's going to be. No, this is a what if series. But I mean, if David Warner can be the third Doctor, then why not go to hello there? It's from St. Augustine. Hi. Thank you. But why not go into an insane field of the absolute no holds barred? But we can always say that this is another series. This has nothing to do with the canon of Doctor Who. This is just something we're playing with just to see where it goes. Just where
Hardest lands in the middle of Godzilla versus King Kong.
There you go.
That was the conversation I was having yesterday with Christian.
Well, I mean, that's Big Finish in a nutshell, isn't it, though, really, in the sense that you can jump in and you can jump out when you like. It's my personal belief, and I think, and the BBC acknowledge it, so therefore I think Big Finish is canon. That's my personal thing. People would argue with that. I think that given the fact that they've made a Paul McGann one-off where he references Big Finish characters, pretty much solidifies that for me. It's the Unbound stuff. If you don't like it, if you sit there and think, that would never happen, I don't want Joanna Lumley first. One could say that. Is it canon? And if you don't think these things are canon, then you don't have to watch them. It can be whatever you want to be. Realistically, you can just disregard the whole new. If you really wanted to, you could disregard the whole new series and say it's a different. That's not canon, but the classic series is. Or you could do vice versa and say the new series is canon, but the classic isn't. Like canon, I think really is what you make of it. It's a story after all. You can kind of, as long as you get something out of it yourself, I think that's the main thing, really.
I had a whole blurb about you guys specifically when I was reviewing the 8th Doctor book. Source book of the role-playing game. And I'm like, that he's the longest running Doctor, not the shortest. You need to listen to your Big Finish.
That's the argument, isn't it? That is the argument in a nutshell. Those role-play games are great, by the way. Got a lot of time for them. We did one a couple of years ago, and I was a space marine from Death to the Daleks. Meanwhile, my friend was Orsini, a young version of Orsini, and we were fighting the Movellans. So there we go. What a weird world that was, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But possibilities are endless. That'd be a good one, wouldn't it? Young Orsini. I think that'd be fun.
Wow.
Revelation of the Daleks.
Well, I know it's late where you are. Thank you so much, Benji. Thank you so much for coming on out there. I'm going to go ahead and end the show. So anybody have any last minute before we go? And Benji, if I could hold you over just a little bit when I end the broadcast.
Absolute pleasure to be a part of this, and it's been great fun, and it's been great fun chatting with everybody as well. It's just so nice to be able to shoot all about Big Finish and Doctor Who and nerdy things. It's great.
No, the honor is ours. I think as we go into 2021, we were talking about doing more Big Finish in 2020 and bringing in writers and directors and voiceover actors and all that, and then all of a sudden the Koof hit, and a lot of the people on the series just all of a sudden said, "Hey, Christian, what are you doing?" So we started getting Annette, we started getting Terry, we started getting
there's a lot of captive audiences of people going, I would like to speak to anybody who wants to just interact. We could talk anything. Like, yeah, sure, come on the show.
Again, what's nice is you broadcast live, you speak to the world. That's so nice. And there's live interaction with people. And that's the magic of it, isn't it, really? It's actually talking to people. And all of you are so nice and inviting and kind. And it's great to be here and just to be able to talk and chat, It's like COVID never happened. It's just nice people. Love it.
People.
Human beings and cats.
And cats.
Two cats. A cat which seems to keep going from one person's camera to another.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
It's going to end up in here in a minute.
What we should do
Suddenly cat.
What we should do is,
I forgot to close the room door.
We need to get the same type of cat that looks the same, and the cat walks across, so it looks like it's going in and out of other people's cameras.
Well, technically, you had three.
Like if I handed you something, Benji, you would grab it and just pull it from the other side.
Here we go.
We did something like that. It's just like, I'll hand you the TARDIS. Here you go, and then you would just pull a TARDIS on your ship.
Why have I got my TARDIS in here of all the days not to have my TARDIS? That would have been seamless.
Yeah,
it might have changed in its incarnation, but it would have been good.
Got every Doctor Who. Oh, sorry. No, you're fine. I just clicked on every Doctor Who fan I've met or talked to is super. Yeah, everybody, and everybody Absolutely. We've had on this show has just been outstandingly wonderful there. But unfortunately, we've come to the end of the recording show. Makes me miss my Whovians from Nebraska and Iowa. Well, Kelly, you're in St. Augustine. We have Whovians here in Orlando. We've got some friends over here in Tampa. Melanie represents Tampa. And our friends
during we ever get back to conventions again. Ancient City Con. That's the one in St. Augustine.
That's true. And unfortunately, I just got word. I got the word this morning. Central Florida Comic Con is postponed until June. So the first official, I wouldn't say brick and mortar, is now Bartow.
That's because Sci-Fi Bartow is an outdoor on the main street. You already in 10 by 10 tents. You're outside. I think you're going to feel a lot more people are more comfortable with the idea of being outside, so you can really space out. Mm-hmm. And I will have those huge fans that are just going to blow Lysol on people. And in a suit saying, please buy my wares, but do not touch me.
Cast you out, die, Spot. Die.
What was it that Tim Treller used to say? 1 love, 2 meters.
1 love, 2 meters. Love it.
Don't forget to buy our stuff on our Threadless page, and don't forget
get the shower curtain. Get the shower curtain.
Don't even tell me. I'm getting one.
Underoos.
I'm probably going to replace this bad boy right here. So, oh my goodness. Okay, this is the last one. Yes,
the wheels are coming off, y'all.
Well, don't be a stranger. Well, Kelly, I haven't met many Doctor Who fans since I moved here. When did you move here? That is good to know. No, the Whovians are spread all out. We just, when the conventions arrive, you'll see us come together. Yeah. And once the conventions start coming up, like Mega and Florida Super, and Space Coast, whenever those guys start arriving back, we'll be there. We'll be there to be geeking out with the Whovians. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Benji, thank you for staying. Thank you for joining us tonight. There, such an honor. And stick with us as soon as I end the broadcast. I just have a few show notes afterwards. And again, everybody, please stay safe. Happy holidays. And we want to see you in the next year. So take care of yourselves. Mask up. Wash your damn hands. And what was it that Brian says? Never be sorry for being awesome.
Never be sorry for being awesome.
Something. Thank you, folks. Have a great night.
Thank you.